is also actually verses from our lesson. Somebody read 1 Corinthians 9, 24 through 25. And before you do, I want to put this in context a little bit. These verses come right after the verses we just read. So this whole thing about I've become all things to all people, this whole thing about using your liberty to be a positive influence for others, now it's almost like a subject change. Somebody read 9, 24 through 27.
Don't you know that the runners in a stadium all race, but only one receives a prize? Run in such a way to win the prize. Now everyone who competes exercises self-control in everything. They do it to receive a perishable crown, but we an imperishable crown. So, I do not run like the one who runs aimlessly or box like one beating the air. Instead, I discipline my body and bring it under strict control so that after preaching to others, I myself will not be disqualified.
I don't know how many of y'all know much about Corinth, but Corinth is actually on an isthmus. Corinth became a very wealthy city because it was the shortest distance between two bodies of water, and they actually had an overland passage, almost like portaging these ships, where they could save weeks and weeks in commerce by going overland for really just a couple of hundred yards to save sailing around. So Corinth was on an isthmus. And the games, the athletic events talked about here, would have been very, very familiar to Corinthians because they had the Isthmian games, which were really kind of rivals of the Olympics. This was a big deal. For those of you who grew up in Ocala, certainly 50 years ago, and maybe even still today, this is the Florida Relays. This isn't some dual track meet with North Marion. This is a big old deal right here. And Paul is talking to people who would dedicate their lives to becoming good athletes, to be able to win, to train. Think what you have to do to train. This would be like being in the Olympics. And what do you get if you win?
A wreath of flowers.
A crown of pine branches that went around your head. And I've often thought about the sap had to be pretty icky, but that was in honor of Poseidon, and we won't get into all the details. But basically, you dedicate your life to accomplishing this goal, and you get a pine limb on your head. Well, Paul is saying, and he's setting up this comparison. He says, people will dedicate their lives to running to win. Now we sound like Erwin Luther a little bit, in order to get a limb on their head. Well, aren't we as Christians going to be more dedicated to pursuing the imperishable reward? A key phrase in these verses is exercise self-control in everything. Name some activities that liberty might allow, but we might choose to avoid so as not to cause a brother to stumble. Can I give y'all one? This happened to me just a couple weeks ago. There's a group of old guys being defined to be people older than me, that get together for lunch pretty much every day. And I'll try, you know a lot of them, so I'm not going to call names, but once every few weeks or so, I'll meet them for lunch wherever. And I make a phone call and said, where y'all, I'm inviting myself to lunch. Where are y'all eating today? And the answer was the Wing House. I'm not sure there's anything wrong with going to the Wing House. I'm not saying there is. Maybe some of y'all go there for lunch today. I don't know. But I just made the decision and I said, nah, I think maybe I'll take a rain check. And the reason was, what would any of y'all think? And I started saying, if you saw me at the Wing House, well, if you saw me at the Wing House, you'd be there too. But, you see me walking out or something. Is that really consistent with the message that I'm trying to share with people in my life? The answer was no. For the sake of this discussion, let's say there's nothing wrong with going to the Wing House. But it was wrong for me. And if I'd had liberty to go there, I chose not to do so. What are some other real-world examples? What are some things, and Romney, I hadn't forgotten about your comments. I'm not 100% sure liberty allows us to go to some of those places, but What are some practical examples? What are things we do today where we say, I got a right to do this, I'm free to do it, but I'm not going to?
How we behave in traffic, maybe.
I think that's an excellent example. I really do think that's an excellent example.
Please repeat.
It's a horrible example.
I didn't hear it.
What are some others?
Somebody hit a nerve.
I'm with you, Ed.
Back in the.
Can I?
Sure.
Go ahead.